Thanks for tuning in to Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy. On today's episode, we're talking birthdays. Happy birthday to you. Ah, yes, it's birthdays. Hi, Habs. It's Muffy. I just want to first say happy birthday to T. I know, I think when this episode goes live, it's her birthday. You say it's your birthday. Well, it's my birthday too. I hope she has a marvelous, marvelous birthday. And I guess the birthdays are on our minds. I love birthdays. I think I was saying in another episode that, one of my kind of cheap thrills is to celebrate everything that's on tap, like birthdays and holidays and just for no reason, celebrations. So birthdays for me are like a big deal, not only with my own family, but like my friends and my friends' kids. I love to celebrate birthdays. I love to celebrate life and people coming into life. And that's what a birthday is. You came into the world on that day. And I think it should be celebrated and marked. And it doesn't mean it has to be a big celebration every year, but marked is more important that, oh, it's your birthday. And I guess, I would say that this really has been something I hold near and dear to my heart because years ago, I became a kid's birthday party expert and had a kid's birthday party company that I launched as an entrepreneur. It was called Peppers and Pollywogs. At first, it was, just me going around the DC metropolitan area doing kids' parties, not just birthday parties, actually, but all sorts of parties, Halloween, baptismal parties, birthdays, Christmas. Valentine's, it didn't really matter. It was parties for children. But of course, the biggest one was birthdays. And years later, I went on and made that Peppers and Pollywogs a tech-based business, and I became a birthday party kids expert for parents all across America. And I even wrote a book called Dear Peppers and Pollywogs, answering parents' questions about their kids' parties, because I know how important it is for parents to celebrate their kids' birthdays and that there's a lot of questions that surround it. So I really wanted to be a support. So like built a whole business around parties and particularly birthday parties for children. So I think it just shows like how much I love to celebrate birthdays to the point where I love to do that for a living. And even though I don't work in that business any longer, I still really love to celebrate. And for me, it's not only RK, my husband, but my pets. I know the day, like if I don't really know their actual birth date, like the day they came to us is their birth date. So I have M, my cat, who came to us October 13th, 2008. So that's her birthday. And then we knew ours birthday, the Labrador. So I celebrate their birthdays. I celebrate my friends' birthdays, at least with a card, maybe more. I like to celebrate people. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be a big thing, but it's important to me. With RK, interestingly enough, he sort of appears to be a quiet guy who would just maybe want something quiet and intimate for his birthday. But no, actually, he really wants a big gathering and people to be around him to celebrate him. Like, and last year I had a party. I think you were there because you came to the comedy show that I produced for him. And, I had a huge cake for him. I may share the picture of that cake. Because it's so compelling. And, it was just this huge cake that came on stage that surprised him, and the fellow comedians all sort of said something nice to him, and then everybody had a piece of his birthday cake who were in the audience. It was like an audience of 100 people. That's like a lot of, like, celebration for a birthday. Um, so that was particularly really fun. Sometimes it's just, like, getting together with close family and just going to dinner, close friends. But RK always kinda makes me work for it because he really likes a celebration. He likes to be the birthday boy and like people seeing him and celebrating him in sort of a big way. For all of my love of birthdays and celebrating birthdays and doing things for people on their birthdays, I am the exact opposite. I like things quiet. I like one-on-one birthday dinners. I like something kinda like fun, but just a few people involved that I feel close to. Last year, RK gave me an escape room experience, and it was just him and I, and then 2 other people. Yeah, it was just 4 of us, but that was, like, just fine. It was just enough. Um, I really like when it's not that big of a public to-do. Maybe that's because I was a kid's birthday party planner who then, did that for work, and it just felt like if I have to do a birthday party for myself, it's like work, and I don't know if I really trust RK to, like, not put some of the party planning on me for my own birthday. Now, that being said, I will say he's hit it right a couple of times, for me with people. One time we were in gosh, it was, um, Cambodia. It's a long time ago, like, this gotta be 2009. We went, like, in early June, but my birthday's at the end of June. This is probably my favorite, but there's another one that's a runner-up, and what he did was we were traveling with a bunch of family, like 10 of us. So he did a little birthday party with the 10 of us that I wasn't expecting at the French Correspondence Club in, in, uh, in Cambodia, in, like, the Angkor Wat area, um, and which is the town was Siem Reap. And it was just, like, so like, I walked in, this foreign country with wonderful family. We're very, very close to this family. I'm on RK's side, and it's this very cool old-fashioned correspondence club in Southeast Asia with the most amazing, you know, like fruity cocktails, made from their fruits and like interesting food and interesting people. And it was like such a cool way to celebrate a birthday. And he knew like I would love that. It was very intimate with people I really trust and love in a really cool location on the globe. You just hit all the right marks. And then like I did get gifts. And I do love gifts. I love giving gifts. I like receiving gifts. Um, that was always a thing, like, with the kids' parties, like, no gifts, conundrum, like, I don't want my kid to get gifts at their birthday party. I'm like, "Well, maybe they want gifts." But that was always a hot topic 'cause, I mean, I'm like, "Kids, like gifts, so they like to maybe give gifts," but it was a big thing at the time of, like, do you give gifts or not? But anyway, they gave me gifts, and they were just so cool. They were gifts from, different parts of the world and, like, perfumes with different scents, and I remember I got a purse with a different type of fabric and just really wonderful, the whole thing. The other time that RK got it right for me with a birthday celebration was for my 50th birthday, when I had always told him for so many years that I wanted a balloon parade. I wanted to get together with friends and we'd all have a bunch of balloons and we marched like like Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh through the forest with balloons. And I just thought that would be so magical to have a balloon parade. We'd have to be in the woods, just like march along a road and have balloons and chat and just be fun. So for my 50th birthday, RK says, "Oh, we're gonna go to City People's, this place in Seattle that I love to shop." Like it was great for like holiday decor and stuff. I love to be in there. It was also like a place for gardening and all of that sort of stuff, but it had a great homeware shop. So I was like, "Okay, we'll go there." I was like, "Oh, maybe it's gonna get me something nice out of there because I love that place." And that place is no longer there, which is so sad. It has closed. But, at that time, it was just amazing, and I walk in and all like, not all my friends, but, like, close friends, maybe, like, 8 or 9 close friends, had balloons and were there. We did a balloon parade, and we paraded to this little I don't know, a little bar down the road. It was a pretty main road in Seattle toward this, like, restaurant that had this cute bar, and the bar was waiting for us, and he popped champagne bottles, and we had champagne with the balloons. It's just like it was just so simple and yet so whimsical and so frothy and fun. I just couldn't believe I got a balloon parade on my 50th birthday, and then we went to a French restaurant and had dinner, and he had planned a nice menu and had flowers on the table. He really had thought of all the details, and I just thought that was just so kind and so connected to who I am. And so, again, I have to say the French Correspondence Club and my balloon parade were, like, my favorite, like, birthday gatherings with people. Outside of that, I just like to go to dinner with him on my own and just relax. Um, I used to also love, like, with birthdays, like, the social media, especially Facebook, when on your birthday, like, everyone just wish you happy birthday, everyone wish you happy birthday, people far and wide, people who you're close to and people who you weren't. I always thought that was so loving and kind to receive, and I'm no longer on Facebook. And as I thought about that, as I got off it recently, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss that on my birthday," even though I don't wanna be on Facebook these days, I do like there were parts of it that I really, really enjoyed, and I have to say, birthdays were always more special with all those wishes that came in on the Facebook, platform. So that will not be with me anymore. I have other ways of connecting with people. But just, kind of like what has made up my birthdays and celebrations. For my part, I love to send people flowers on their birthdays. I love to take people out to dinner for their birthday. I love to pick up things throughout the year that remind me of somebody and then I send them the gift. Um, I think holding a person in mind and saying, "Hey, I see you. I want to celebrate you." I really enjoyed celebrating Habs Your Girls last year. I think T, you and I went to high tea at the Plaza Hotel, and I guess you guys had never been for high tea, and that was just so fun to do that, to have that experience as I think she was turning 16th, sweet 16 birthday. It's like perfection, right? A high tea for someone turning sweet 16. I loved that. And then I think we took Jay to one of my very, very favorite places in the city, Serendipity, and she got unicorn birthday pancakes, and I just loved that. I just love these sort of whimsical, fun experiences to celebrate a birthday, but most of all, just, like, remembering people on their birthdays and, people who I may not even be close to, just picking out a card, and by the way, I will say you're very, very good at cards, Habs. I love the cards you pick, and not only do you pick the most amazing cards, but you, like, say the most amazing words. They seem like they just come naturally to you, and when you write them and I read them, I just feel so seen and heard by you. And I mean, it's not just your birthday cards, but I think recently you sent me a Valentine. I'm just like, "Oh my goodness," it makes me cry. I mean, if there's a real art to cards and to sentiments we write in cards, I mean, it's an old-fashioned art. I don't think a lot of people do it these days, but I still do. I do lots of cards all the time. I like to sit at my desk and think about somebody and wish them a wonderful birthday or a wonderful holiday, whatever it may be. So, I mean, it might just be, my old age speaking, but I really do appreciate it, and I think the art of celebrating a birthday well is remembering people well and taking the time in our busy lives to say, "Hey, happy birthday to you," and the celebration and all of that. I have to say, I was celebrating my birthday last year at the club I belong to, and there was somebody else celebrating their birthday. We were apparently our birthdays are a day apart. And so I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna just be the only one to, be sung to because he's also having a birthday." So we started singing to him, and he immediately shut it down. He's like, "No." We were like, "Oh my god." So we stopped because we knew he was serious, like, he did not want, his birthday the happy birthday song sung to him. I always am a little bit, like, suspicious of people like that, particularly when they're, like, in a social club. And they don't want anything to their birthday being celebrated socially. I think that's kinda weird. Funny part of that was we stopped singing immediately, but we cut this big cake that RK had gotten me, and we sent pieces over to his group of people, and they definitely accepted that. Lock, stock, and barrel, they took that cake. Cake's always a winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Tell me about your birthday celebrations, Habs.
Muffy, I love that phrase, the art of celebrating a birthday well. I think it's so true and so appropriate. I think most people, well, I don't want to speak for most people, but the idea that somebody just leaves me a message or a text or anything to say, hey, happy birthday, Habs. It does. It speaks to me as if, as in, I see you. I'm recognizing you and thinking about you today. And that's just really special. Growing up, I had a lot of birthday parties because my birthday was in the summer in July, and we were always away in the summer. So before school let out, and we were in school till like almost the end of June, um, I would have a birthday party at school. My mom would organize a birthday party for me and my friends. I would have a birthday celebration with my grandparents. And then we would go away for the summer and I would celebrate my actual birthday um, with my family and some friends. We didn't have like a ton of close friends, but where we summered. But I would, what made that the actual day special for me is that my mom would always bake a blueberry pie, which she made amazing blueberry pies, and it runs in her family. Her father made pies and blueberry ones, especially just amazing. And then we would get lobster, and I love lobster. I grew up on lobster. So yeah, I had a lot of birthday parties. I have to say, upon reflection, I don't actually think I had a lot of say in what those birthdays look like. And I've done a lot of reflecting on like growing up and how I perceive things now versus then. But I think, my mom would just organize the birthday parties. I wasn't really sought out for input. When it was a birthday party with friends, she would make a cake. We never bought a cake. Uh, but when we were just with family, we would have the pie and, the themes were always like things that she came up with. I often had pool parties because we belonged to this local pool club that was very close to our house. And so it was just easy to like have a party there and then barbecue and, probably simple, right? For my mom who was organizing it. But I don't recall being asked what I wanted to do on my birthday. I was just told. I do remember one year she did a surprise birthday party for me, maybe around the time I was 8. I remember I was actually coming down the stairs. I wasn't fully dressed. I was getting into my bathing suit. My mom was like, "Don't go down the stairs," because all of my friends would have seen me naked. So, I mean, it was fine. I don't really ever want a surprise party again, but, as a little kid, it was cute. It was fun. What types of birthdays do I like now? Well, I like simple birthdays. I just, with having kids and them always being around as much as I love them, sometimes you just need some space. I just want simplicity. I just want some time to myself. I want to lie in bed, maybe read a book. I want to go to the beach. We tend to be in Maine when it's around my birthday. And sometimes I get a massage that my husband will get for me as a gift, which is super nice. And then I want to go to dinner with him. There's really not much else I want to do. I mean, it's fine if my girls don't give me cards. Now, T is getting older, and so she's not into the giving cards, and she's not a big gift giver, but Jay is a huge gift giver, and she still loves to make cards and celebrate, and she loves birthday. So I get showered with her on things, and I do like to get flowers. Again, growing up, not that I got flowers, but we could never give my mom flowers. So like Mother's Day, her birthday, whatever. She did not want flowers because she was really allergic to flowers. I get it. She doesn't want to sneeze, but I that's why they're so special for me as an adult because that just wasn't a habit or a thing that happened in our family. And so for me, when A gets flowers, like it means the world. It doesn't have to be a special flower. It doesn't have to be, yeah, it just means the world because I didn't have that growing up. And it's just such a simple gesture. It's so interesting that RK likes to have like a big celebration with lots of people around him. Cause you're right. Like if you just kind of met him, like wouldn't come across as that type of person. Now that I've gotten to know him more, I can see where he likes that and enjoys it. Uh and he's not like an attention getter. I can see where he really enjoys having, like, people around to celebrate, which is awesome. And I can see, yeah, that you're a little bit more intimate with your birthday gatherings. I loved hearing about your couple of your favorite birthdays, um, with the one in Cambodia and then the one with the balloons. Like, when I heard that story, I was just like, "Oh my god, that's so Muffy." It's just so you. It's whimsical, but it's delightful. It's just amazing. I loved that you shared that with me. I was thinking about it as you were talking, and my favorite birthdays. I think probably my favorite one as an adult uh, was I got engaged on my birthday or the day before. I think it was the day we were up in Maine and A was like fishing around and he's like, oh, maybe you should go get a massage or maybe you should do this. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so he gets me a massage. And then later on, we go down to this bird sanctuary that's kind of like on the coastline in Maine. And it's kind of like, it's the shape of it is like such that it kind of points out it ends, like, pointing out to the ocean with a ton of rocks, and then there's the water. It's beautiful. So we walk down to the bird sanctuary, and we've done it before, and then we're kinda standing at the point, and he's standing behind me, kind of massaging my legs, very unlike us. Like, we are not a touchy-feely couple, and I was, like, thinking to myself, I feel like like that scene from the Titanic where it's like, "I'm the king of the world." It was awkward. I was like, "This is kind of awkward." And he was like, "Yeah, it is." And so then I just started walking, and then he proposed to me. The most special part, like one of the special parts of it was he hadn't told a single person that he was gonna propose. No, he did not ask my dad for my hand in marriage but, like, my dad, he's just not that he wouldn't have been that kind of person to really care, and he liked A, so it really didn't matter, but he didn't even tell, like, his best friend or his mom was completely shocked, so I think that was probably my most favorite birthday, just because it was, yeah, a special day, right? And now I'm living the fairy tale. I'm just kidding, Muffy. I think another, maybe not my favorite, but very memorable birthday was when I turned 40. I actually I turned 40 when I was on a work trip in Amsterdam. At the time, I was kinda like, "Oh, this kinda sucks," but I needed to do the trip, and it was gonna be really simple and relatively easy. But I was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm going alone on my own." And that's how I'm celebrating my 40th, but I had a coworker and a friend who, lived in the UK, and she said, "Hey, after your work thing is over, I'll come and join you and we can celebrate your birthday." And you've met her, T, she lives in the New York City now, and she came over to Amsterdam and we had a great night out. And so that kind of made it special. It's interesting to reflect back on because I feel like my 40s were very challenging for me in many ways. So I don't know if that was like a harbinger to come, but other than the my friend visiting, it was just kind of an interesting way to celebrate your birthday. But to that point, A and I are both like the kind of people where it doesn't have to be on the day that you celebrate your birthday or something else. Like if there are other circumstances, that's okay. I mean, I know his parents are often apart on their anniversary, but they usually go out and celebrate later on or do something else. So Like, that doesn't really bother me, but just, kind of turning 40 is a big, moment in one's life, I think, as is 50. But 40 really kind of starts to hit, right? Like, I am getting older now. I love that you made it special for my girls on their birthdays this past year. And yes, the birthday with tea at the plaza was just incredible because we both have never done that. And I know she was very touched, as was I. Can I talk? And then Jay going to Serendipity, it's so perfect for her. I mean, she absolutely loved it and was so excited. So it was just like kind of really special to be able to spend and celebrate their birthdays with you. So thank you. I agree, Muffy. I am very suspicious of people that don't really want to recognize their birthday or don't want any attention there. And I'm not saying you have to flower, like it needs to be this overwhelming attention, but just the simple words of saying happy birthday. It kind of makes me wonder, like, what's the deal? Or it makes me sad. I mean, in the case of my mother in law, she does not like to celebrate her age at all and her birthday. And she's always very like, oh, it's fine, fine, fine. But I mean, I think she appreciates like when we do little things or the girls make cards or something like that. But I always do just say happy birthday. But she doesn't really love celebrating her birthday. I think she really does struggle internally with getting older, but she doesn't even really make a joke out of it. But she wouldn't. That's just not her style. I remember when she became a grandmother for the first time, she was much younger. She was a young grandmother, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm too young to be a grandmother." So age really does have an impact on her. But yeah, I find that really weird that somebody would be like, don't sing me happy birthday. Like, what's going on there? Like, you can't just recognize it's your day. I mean, A doesn't love a lot of attention. He doesn't really want gifts. He's very much a minimalist, but he does take time to enjoy his day by doing some things that he just enjoys doing, like taking a nap. Loves taking naps. Favorite pastime. Love. But also going out and playing disc on his own, just taking some time for himself. So it's interesting how we all look at our birthdays and how we all celebrate or not in, different ways. I know my one friend, Kay, she always jokes like she doesn't want to actually name the year that has turned. So she's always like, the joke is like, oh, you're 25, you're 25. I don't know. I've kind of gotten over that. I'm just, I think by the time I reached 50, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm 50. Like, I know people in my local neighborhood that I'm friends with, like the moms at my girls' school and stuff. Like, when I did that for the first time, they're like, oh my God, you're almost 50? You can't be 50. You don't even look it. But at first, I was like, I didn't share my age for a long time. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm 50. And it's okay, right? Like, so, it's funny what we do, the things we do when it comes to recognizing the age. But yes, my oldest daughter is turning 17 on the 25th. I just cannot, which is the day that we're publishing this episode. And she's taking her driver's license. I just can't believe it. Like, I still remember the day that I left, that I had her, that I left the hospital with her, that I was driving around on my own as a new mom thinking, oh my God, is she going to be with me for the rest of my life? Like, I just had this image of like, oh my God, I'm never going to be alone again. Like, I'm always going to have something attached to me. F. And it was like a moment of panic. But now I'm like, oh my God, 17, you're leaving the house soon and you've changed so much. Like, in a good way, but, she's becoming into her own. And she doesn't need me as much. She does need me, but it's different. And it's just, like, incredible that it's been 17 years. I mean, people always say, like, how did the years go by? But it's a real way. I know I sound incredulous, but I am. I just can't believe she's 17. It's crazy. I also think it's hysterical that you think I'm good at picking out cards and I know exactly what to say. I mean, I do take it as a compliment, and thank you so much, Mucky, because I think the exact opposite. I think I'm terrible at it. Every time I get it, I mean, I can get a decent card, but I never know what to say. I'm always struggling, especially when I write cards to A. Like, it sounds cheesy, whereas he's like so good and witty, and so are you. So, wow, that that gave me a huge confidence boost. So, thank you, Muffy. Anyways, all this to say, like, birthdays don't scare me. I enjoy them. And I just think birthdays are someone's own very special day, regardless of whether or not they share it with another person. So, darn it, enjoy your special day. Birthdays are wonderful. Buffy, I'd love to hear more.
Habs, it's Muffy. I loved your story of your engagement on your birthday because I remember actually that year when you got engaged, I was in LA on a business trip and I was sitting in a very nice hotel room and you called me and it was early July. And I was remember being surprised that you called and you told me that you had gotten engaged to A. And that was just so exciting because you two had quite a story, quite a love story. Um, and it was just wonderful to see like it and not end, but end and begin with an engagement. And yes, now you're living the fairy tale. But I do have to tell you and remind you, I don't know if you remember this, that on that phone call, I'll never forget it. Why I won't forget it is you told me you were engaged and you were very excited. And I'll never forget where it said, and there will be children. Meaning, I think you would have children with A. And we're like, oh, I thought that was really interesting that alongside the engagement was the twinkle in your eye of T and J right there from the get-go that there would be children. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget you saying it and, you know, about the marriage plans and all the exciting things. And then, and there will be children. And there are children, and you are living the fairy tale, as you say. And you are living a fairy tale. You've been your own fairy tale. I believe that. So anyway, I think that's wonderful. I didn't really realize, I guess, that it happened on your birthday, but I remember it was early July. So of course it was your birthday. And I don't know if you told me the detail about him stroking your like king of the world. I thought that was really great. And yes, so unlike the two of you. So very, very interesting. Ah, yes, birthdays. Um, I love that you and I share the same birthday week. We share different birthday months, but we have the same birthday week. So I am June 30th and you are July 6th. So there's 6 days. And of course, the 4th of July holiday is in there. And I know I don't resonate as much with 4th of July. And I've had this done 4 days before and in June, and you're 2 days after in July. So it's the same, like, kind of space of span of time, like that week, but how it's kind of different for you to be kind of like, it's July, we're in summer. 4th of July just happened. So I'm going to like kind of coordinate with 4th of July. And I'm like, oh, it's 4 days before. Still in the month of June when school's getting out and like not really resonating with it, which is, I think, just really a curious thing. But I'm always glad that we're sort of very close in our birthdays. Um, Also, I think your mom was so smart in that you got to share, had birthday celebrations before school got out. Because for me, my mother never tweaked to like, let's celebrate her birthday before, her birthday, because her birthday's in the end of June and no one's around. And we should do it before school lets out, which is something you do with Jay. I would have loved that, but it didn't go that way. The only time it went that way for me was when I was turning 11. And that's because we were moving to Pennsylvania and we were moving, I don't know, probably in July. And so my mother decided I would be able to have a sleepover. It was also sort of a birthday party early. And I could invite the whole class and the whole thing. So I had like an early party, but it was sort of like birthday/goodbye party, which was always sort of bittersweet when I had those class birthday parties at the end of the year, because it was really about like my ending there. And the same thing happened when I moved back from Pennsylvania to Ohio when I turned, sweet 16, and my sweet 16th birthday was actually the day we moved. How awful is that? On your sweet 16th birthday, you move to a whole new place with no friends, and you're 16, and you're gonna start a new high school, and you know nobody. Like, that was just, like, terrible. Absolutely awful. But before that, my mother said, "Oh, you can have a big, like, going away party slash sweet 16 birthday party, like, in early June." Which is what I did, but it was just so sad in the end because, at that time in your life when you're young like that and a teenager, your friends are everything. I had this really close group of friends and I had a boyfriend, and it was just like, oh my, it was like complete devastation. So it was always these birthday parties at the end of the year that sort of were meant to celebrate my birthday also marked a very significant goodbye, which was hard on me. Just thinking about that, how those got coupled up. Like, the times I had a class birthday party was the class goodbye party to my class, right? And both are hard. So, I never got to experience just, you know, having a birthday party with my friends before school let out for just the sake of my birthday. It was always marking some sort of ending. I mean, it only happened twice, but that was enough. Um, so just very interesting. I'm so glad. I loved your story about, the pool and coming down the stairs for the surprise party when you were 8 and you were kinda, like, naked and your mom said, "Don't come down." I love that. Like, that's great. At least she told you not to come down. That would've been the real surprise to you. But what a great age to give a surprise party. That was really fun. This is really, really fun. Um, I had planned a surprise birthday party for my mother when she turned 60, and I did that from Australia. I was living in Australia at the time. We had just married. And after we got married, we were having Thanksgiving with my family before we actually moved, and I said to my siblings and my older brother and his spouse at the time, "Hey, do we wanna mark mom's 60th birthday with, like, a fun surprise party?" And everyone was, like, really in on it and everything. But, of course, I was not living in Australia, so I wasn't a part of the party at all, but all I did was the invitations and kinda coordinate people getting there. That was what I could do as my contribution because I love invitations, I love writing letters, as you know. And I knew kind of all the people in her life, right? So I created the invitation list, and from Australia, I sent the surprise party invitation, and then my brothers and whomever, their spouse and my father, coordinated that day and got the food in and got her away, and I think she genuinely was surprised when she walked in that there was a surprise party that I organized all the way from Australia. So it can be done. It was sort of sad. I was very lonely in Australia that year. I just didn't have anybody. Um, it was this kind of a sad time in my life, community-wise. So I remember, like, thinking, "Oh, the party," because there's such a big significant time difference, like 12 hours. I was like, "Oh, the party is going on," and, like, that longing. And just nothing for me. I was just there even though I had coordinated the whole thing and made sure she had as many people come, and then I heard, like, it was a wonderful party and they had food and they did this, and what isn't exactly the way I would have done it had I been in person, but it was just fine, and it truly was a surprise, but it was sad to kinda miss it. Speaking of Australia, I mean, that was the one time I had a winter birthday. I might have mentioned that the first thing, but I loved having that winter birthday. Like, I was like, "Oh, if I would have had been living here my whole life, June 30th would have been a winter birthday and everyone would have been in school and I would have been with everybody." So that was cool to experience that one year. So the French Correspondence Club, the balloon parade, but also, having experiencing a winter birthday was just really different. It was kind of cold, but it's never that cold on the Gold Coast. But it was just super different because the seasons mark so much of our time and our life. Like, oh, I'm a summer baby, or I'm a winter baby, or I'm born in the fall. Like, I was a summer baby, but I actually feel like I'm more like fall winter type. But I felt like when I had that one winter birthday, I was like, oh, I'm in line with kind of who I feel I am, which was sort of this kind of strange thing, actually. Um, Yeah. Oh, birthdays are so fascinating, what people like, what they don't like. But yeah, the point is to, like, mark them. I don't, like I said in that show, The Middle, I don't let them pass. And I try to remember. Actually, it's funny, with these comedy shows, this past week, I've been asking even my comedians, "When is your birthday?" And they're like, "Oh, that's an interesting thing," and, like, remembering it, writing it down, like, "Okay, maybe I'll remember my comedians on their special day somehow, some way," so that they know that they're known more than just, "Hey, will you get up on my stage and I'll pay you some money to entertain a crowd?" I want to know who you are. I think when you remember somebody on the day they were born, whether you've known them forever or just recently, it is a marking of like, "Hey, I heard you, I see you, I know you, and I'm glad you're here in this world." And I think there's something really significant and meaningful about that. So it was interesting that I was asking some comedians this week who I was working with, like, "Hey, when's your birthday?" And one thanked me for putting me in the show. And I was like, "And I'm not going to forget that May 10th is your birthday." And she was like, "Woof." She's like, "Ha ha." I mean, I don't think she knew how seriously I take this birthday business, Habs. But I know you do know how much I take it seriously. Speaking of which, happy birthday early, Habs. And what you just said there, I really, from your last note to me, I really want to send you flowers. I really do.
Wow, Muffy, I did not realize that I said that when I called you when I got engaged that there will be children. Wow, you have a really good memory. I mean, I guess it would stand out. I have no recollection of that whatsoever. But how, like, that just kind of it kind of stunned me. I was just like, wow. I mean, it wasn't the first thing on my mind at the time whatsoever. Uh, I went through a period where like children were not interesting to me at all. I babysat a lot in high school. And then when I went to college and my 20s, I like really wanted nothing to do with kids. So it's just funny that that's what I said. I mean, I kind of always thought or knew that I would have children with Andrew. But you never know for sure, right? What a good memory, Muffy. Um, it's interesting too because A and I, like, we didn't necessarily try at first, and maybe this is going into too much information, but kind of shares the story. We didn't really try, and like, we just, prevented certain things from not happening or from not happening. Like I stopped birth control, and other things that we didn't use condoms. Again, not to get like too in the weeds here, but like it probably went on for like 4 years and I did not get pregnant. And then we decided to make the move to California. And I actually got a job out there and I moved first because A had to wrap up some things back east, which were preventing him from moving right away. So we lived, from coast to coast. We had a coast to coast relationship. It was not easy, it was hard. But with my job, I was able to travel often back to the East Coast. So I would marry that with seeing A. And then he would come out from time to time. And I would say, literally, we saw each other about once a month. And every month when we saw each other, I always had my period until I think it was like May. It was Memorial Day weekend. And he came out and we went on a trip to Yosemite. We camped out one night and then we went to a hotel another night. I think that was the same trip. I might be mixing it up, but it doesn't really matter. Um, he came out and I didn't have my period and I didn't really think anything of it. So come 4th of July, I fly back to Maine to see him and be with him. And then he was actually going to make his way out at that point, and we said our goodbyes and I wished him well on the trip. Of course, I'd be talking to him every day. And then I would say, like, I was flying home and I had to fly through Newark. And I remember like getting a glass of wine. And for the first time ever, it really not tasting right, just weird. I didn't really think anything of it. So like a couple weeks later, I broke out in hives and it freaked me out. And I was like, hey, what should I do? And he's like, well, go take a cold shower, do this other stuff, put on some cream, like lotion. And he's like, I've had this before. If it doesn't go away in the morning, you just go to the emergency room. Okay, so fine, I do. Go to bed, whatever. I wake up, I still have the hives. So I go to the emergency room, and I'm there. And the nurse is asking me various questions like they always do. And they're like, any chance that she could be pregnant? And I was like, huh, maybe, And so they were like, well, why don't you just get a pregnancy test while you're here? You're here for the hives, but, it's free. A lot of people come in and do it. And I was like, well, okay. Because I was thinking, well, if I went to a pharmacy and did it myself, I wouldn't believe it. So I went and got the test and whatever, or they gave me the test. And then, the doctor came back and he was like, really, he was like this old guy. He was like, in a really soft voice, he was like, so were you looking to get pregnant? And I was like, well, I don't know. I guess so. Like, it just kind of took me off guard. And he was like, you are. And then he left. And I was like, What? What just happened? Um, so so then on my way on my check, the hives went away. And on my checkout, they gave me medicine or whatever. And as I was checking out, they were like, would you like a copy of your pregnancy test? And I was like, yeah, yes, I would. Or I don't even think they asked me. I just said, can I have a copy of that the test results? And they were like, sure. Because honestly, I wouldn't have believed them if I didn't have that piece of paper in hand. The other funny part was I didn't tell A until 2 weeks later. So he was driving in weird parts of the country, and we kept having these phone calls that were either kind of choppy or whatever. I finally got a hold of him in a place that seemed relatively there wasn't a lot of static or, um, the call wasn't being dropped or whatever. And I told him, and he was like, I think I have to go get a beer. So that was, I know this is all about birthdays, but when I look at, I'm looking at my wall calendar right now and it's 17th birthday. And it all started with that story. I mean, how meant to be was it for us to have in that way? Because for 4 years, nothing had happened. And then the one time, we're living, it felt like worlds apart. It happens. I mean, a similar thing with Jay, although we didn't conceive 100% naturally, it wasn't IVF, but it was close to it. And it was just a first step. And honestly, it was so traumatic, we never would have tried beyond the one time. And voila, Jay appeared. So it's just funny how the birthdays bring up those types of memories. And I find it, yeah, I mean, it's so interesting even that you and I are a week apart. And I never really thought about it in terms of you were before the 4th of July and I'm after. So it holds more meaning. A lot of the 4th of July, yes, does hold meaning because of my birthday, but also just because I have had great 4th of July experiences and memories. But I never really felt that way. But, it's just another thing that kind of makes us best buds. I know that sounds cheesy, but it is because we're within the span of a week and we're both cancers and we're both the crabs. And it's just how ironic is that? Life is just ironic, Muffy. My gosh. But yeah, thank you for sharing about, your all the things, your experiences as a child and not really having birthday parties and having to move on your sweet 16th birthday. My gosh, yeah, that's definitely hard for a teenager to have to move on their sweet 16. It's I feel like it's one of the most special birthdays. So I feel like birthdays are pivotal moments in our lives. Once a year, a birthday happens, and what happens around it. It is truly fascinating. I completely agree. And wow, I mean, you planned a 60th birthday party for your mom, across the world. I mean, that's incredible. No wonder you started a party planning business for kids, Peppers and Pollywogs. But I also think you You did that because you do take birthdays seriously and they're important to you and you remember uh, and it came naturally for you to start a kids party planning business. And you are really good with cards and invitations and so creative. Um, I also take birthdays seriously. So we're on the same wavelength. Another reason that this podcast works for us. We're on the same wavelength, just coming at it from different angles and experiences. Well, I digress. I mean, just to say, I never thought how fascinating the subject of birthdays would be, but it really is. I would love to know from our listeners what interesting or memorable birthday experiences they've had, what has stood out, what's been kind of random for them, or, you know, what do birthdays mean to our listeners? How do they feel about their birthday? It really is a fascinating subject, Muffy, and I can't wait to get flowers from you. Thank you. In the words of my youngest daughter, Jay, it's 6 months away, but you better start planning. Just teasing. Take care, Muffy, and happy birthday. In 5 or so more months. Gotta start early, get my planning done. Thanks for listening to Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy talk about birthdays, how we feel about them, what they mean to us, and how we celebrate them, or if we hide under the covers and ignore them. Birthday, bonanza or bust. Anyways, for more, follow us on Instagram at Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy. Until next time, when we talk about things we need to stop doing. Ciao!